Stanislav Klika was a Czech writer, illustrator and collector, also publishing as Jan Ignota. He was born in 1885 in Žižkov, now part of the city of Prague. He married Maria Žohová, a small magazine and bibliophilia publisher. In 1917 he founded his own publishing outfit at their Prague address before moving and continued until 1926. Between 1920 and 1925 he co-founded Kolokol, a small-time author-led publishing company with Miloš Hajde, František Richter and Ladislav Verinsky. He died in 1942. His first book was the 1918 self-published novella The Third in the Game. He also wrote children's books and satire, such as The Confession of Monsieur MP Václav Držka, the story of a dead MP's soul in its confession. We will review his 1921 For Dust You Are. The book begins with the unnamed narrator being released from hospital, where he was laid up for many weeks close to death, not even being able to move for a very long time. He is delighted to be alive, and then actually goes to the cemetery to make fun of the dead, and takes pride in being literally above them. But a strange feeling of déjà vu overwhelms him, and he starts thinking he is only an amalgamation of all his dead ancestors. Running off in a blind panic, he runs into the funeral of a dead woman. Then all leave the dead woman alone. We are told in detail how the buried body decomposes, soaks up water, and then oozes out of its broken coffin, before we see the shade of the woman walking forlorn along the graveyard paths. She is devastated as she was never a mother and had never known a man. Another dead woman who knew many men is devastated because she was still not a mother. Then a dead mother speaks up about all the horrors and worries of bringing 12 children into the world. The worry for each of their lives, multiplying her sorrows and fears before her death. Then we hear the laments of a dead actor, a dead poet, a worker, a thinker and a salesman. Then lightning strikes and awakes the shade of a dead madman. He wanders around remembering his mother who had not wanted him to be born but loved him anyway. The child of poor parents, he too was poor and suffered in poverty for 40 years. The section being a somewhat overlong diatribe about the sufferings of the poor and the unjustly blissful life of the rich, repeating itself quite a lot and yammering on about the same point ad nauseum. Eventually the dead man went to a workers' meeting and forced his way to the stage, going on about a giant galaxy-spanning metaphorical skeleton, and how all culture must be destroyed, as it is but a tool to subjugate the poor. He is hauled off to an asylum where he dies. A dead doctor's shade crawls out of its mausoleum and tries to read its own name, before remembering who it was, a doctor who tried to uncover the mysteries of death, and where human consciousness goes to after we die, waiting to ask death a question in his final moments and even being willing to die a second time to get a second chance to do so. Then we see the shade of an artist who got bored of his life and fame and moved to a colder climate, where he was pestered by a malicious black butterfly calling all his work and effort into doubt. So he tries to destroy everything he had ever painted, but then he resolves to paint a child, and the more real it appears on his canvas, the more worn and tired he is, until he is found dead lying next to the dead butterfly. After coming back to himself, the narrator walks off, still arguing with the dead, who refuse to believe there can be anything better than death. There are a few nice moments, but the social aspect and the stiffness of the writing in places makes this rather hard to enjoy.